It's not just feathers and fishnets. Welcome to the real world behind the sparkle. I'm Isabella Bliss, international performer, Marilyn Monroe tribute, coach and lifelong lover of sequins and storytelling. Each month I sit down with the performers, producers, creatives and beautiful misfits shaping our world. We talk career highs, backstage lows, body image, empowerment and everything in between. If you're a performer, a fan, or just curious about what really happens behind the curtain, you're in the right place. Hit follow for your monthly dose of truth, tassels, and behind-the-scenes brilliance. Today's guest is the brilliant Rose Thorne, cabaret producer, performer, and charity founder, a real powerhouse in the UK cabaret scene. Trained by the legendary Good Time Mama Jojo back in 2007, Rose has performed across the country and is best known as the co-producer of East London's award-winning R Club, the wonderfully surreal Lynch-inspired cabaret that has become one of London's longest-running shows. Beyond the stage, Rose is also the founder of Cabaret vs Cancer, a charity that has raised and distributed more than £460,000 to support people affected by cancer. She's a long-time Drag Idol judge and a recent Silver Award winner at the Best Businesswoman Awards for her work as charity champion. So let's get into it. This is Rose Thorne.
Hi, thank you very much. It's all so humbling to hear somebody else say what you are and what you've achieved.
It's strange,
lovely.
Isn't it? I think we don't always give ourselves credit for the things that we've done. And you've made such a mark on the cabaret industry as a whole and the community. And that's why I'm so humbled and grateful that you agreed to come on the show.
Oh, my pleasure. I'll always take an opportunity to chat.
Good fun and good chat. And you look absolutely fabulous.
Thank you very much.
I love it. I love it. So let's take us back. How did you first discover burlesque?
I've been thinking about this a lot since I started listening to your podcast, and I don't know what happened. I suffered a back injury in 2006 and lost a massive amount of self-confidence. I went from being somebody who wore heels every day to not being able to wear heels. And somehow I found Tournament of Teas, Bethnal Green Working Man's Club and Good Time Mama Jojo. And I don't know how it happened. I was on a lot of painkillers at the time. So I don't know whether or not I got a flyer handed to me, whether I picked it up out of Time Out magazine. I don't know what happened, but the stars aligned. And I found Tournament of Teas, Bethnal Green Working Man's Club and Good Time Mama Jojo in East London. And that's when the magic started. Yeah. So
such iconic spaces as well, aren't they? Because Good Time Mama Jojo, she was on episode 2 of the show and she has taught so many performers in the UK cabaret scene, and the Bethnal Green Working Man's Club was such an iconic venue.
Yeah, it really was. You know, Ben Waters, who was the cabaret editor of Time Out, said all burlesque roads in London and the UK lead back to Good Time Mama Jojo. Yeah, and she's our OG.
Yeah,
and Bethnal Green was where the Whoopee Club was, and you know it just kind of like those three things aligned. Yeah, and you know, my husband Ben and I found ourselves regulars at Tournament of Teas, and all of a sudden I had signed up and was doing a course, and really I had no intention of performing. It was about my own self-confidence and trying not to kind of hate the person that I'd become when I wasn't able to dress and wear the shoes that I used to wear. And so I did the course really just to kind of pick myself up a little bit. And then all of a sudden it's kind of like, yeah, I'm going to do this.
You find that like new spark in yourself again, isn't it? And I always say, like, when people talk about wanting to learn burlesque, but they're like, oh no, I don't want to be a performer. And I always say, you don't have to.
Yeah, you don't have to.
But you might start and then change your mind. But it's a great way for you to access those parts of yourself again, isn't it? And reconnect with your body and your identity and find who you are at that point in your life.
Yeah, it was, you know, I was a majorette when I was a little girl. I did figure skating, but, you know, I hadn't been on stage for, 20 years. Yeah. And it just wasn't my intention at all. And I know I've had this conversation with Joe a lot. I nearly didn't go back after the first class. Really? Because I thought, this is not for me, you know, but I did go back and the rest is history.
We're so grateful you did.
I'm grateful I did. You know, Joe King, without a doubt, changed my life and should never be, and her role in this community should never be underplayed for the changes and impact she's had on people.
Yeah, and she has such a great way about her, Jo, doesn't she? The way that she can nurture what's within inside you and bring it to the surface, and just such a wealth of knowledge, and her kindness and her empathy, and she's so warm and just such skill and knowledge to teach you. It's just,
and she doesn't turn out clones. And I think that's really important. You know, she will work with what you have and what you want to do. And you could line up 3 of her girls all to do, all to perform. And, you know, they're not all clones of each other. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, you don't want to be an identical of somebody else, do you? You know, you want to find, and I think that's the beauty of burlesque and cabaret, isn't it? It's like finding your own little stamp and your own little identity. And we can be inspired by things, but it's how do we take those inspirations and make it our own?
Yeah, so Tournament of Teas, I found myself at Tournament of Teas, and then I signed up to one of Jo's classes, and then all of a sudden I was competing in Tournament of Teas, and and it was all kind of bonkers, really, how kind of like it just happened really quickly.
A whirlwind. And that's fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
Exciting adventures.
Yeah, it really was.
Do you remember what it felt like the first moment you stepped on stage to perform?
I remember getting ready to go on stage. So we were that week, the Tournament of Teas was in the downstairs room of Bethnal Green. And I remember I was in the second half, and I remember you know, shaking so much because it's like, what am I doing? I don't do public speaking. I was at that time, I was a completely different person, and I was really nervous and I was really shaking, and the kind of like the nerves. But then once you hear your music and you get on stage and, you know, you assume the position and you go through the choreography that you've learned, it just kind of like all of a sudden it's over. I don't remember the performance, but I remember before and I remember afterwards, because with Tournament of Teas, the judges would give you feedback. So you would stand on stage with the host, who was Good Time Mama Jojo, and the judges would give you feedback. And so I remember standing next to Jo after I performed, and I started shaking again. And I remember before going on with Ben, kind of trying to put glitter in my gloves and shaking then. But the actual kind of 3.5 minutes that I was on stage
is a bit of a blur.
It is a blur, but I must have liked it because I did it again. And I won my heat of Tournament of Teas. So that was a really exciting moment as well. My first performance in at least 20 years, and I won my heat, and it was really exciting.
And that was you, like hooked, line and sinker
that
into
was
the
me.
world.
Yeah, all of a sudden, part of it.
And what kind of developed from there for when you guys kind of set up the Double R Club? Like, what was the time period between starting to perform and then you and your wonderful partner?
Yeah, so it was probably about 2 years. Ben would always carry suitcases if he was coming to shows. He would help carry other people's suitcases if we were at shows. There was one time in West London he stepped in for the DJ who had to go home, and you know, so he was around. There was a group of us girls, and we all had our burlesque widows, as we called them, and they would all kind of just be around if we needed them. And Ben and I had been together for a long time before I entered this world of burlesque and cabaret, and we'd always been Lynch fans. David Lynch had been a big part of our life, and I remember the first time we walked into Bethnal Green, it's like, this is so Lynch. And, you know, London at that time, you know, this is kind of 2007, 2009. There was a lot of kind of, we always called it jazz hand cabaret. There was a lot of kind of real uplifting, happy stuff. And we thought, is there room for a David Lynch cabaret? Something a little bit darker, something a little bit less end of the pier, and a little bit more kind of curated to a really small headline. And Ben was talking to one of his friends, and they said, "Oh, you'll probably get a couple of shows out of it." And so we've been doing the Double R Club since September 2009. So about 2 years after I started performing, 18 months after I started performing, we were putting on a show every single month, and we did it every single month and still do it every single month. We've moved from Bethnal Green Working Man's Club to Walthamstow Trades Hall. And still thriving, still finding new audiences, finding people who say, "Oh, this is my first time." And I always say to them, "Well, how did you find us?" And they said, "Oh, we're big Twin Peaks fans." And it's like, oh, okay, so it's still out there and still getting new audiences. And just in February, we sold out. And for a show to sell out in the current climate is there something to be really proud of. And we worked really hard, but it's very much a kind of team effort. I'll kind of do all the front of house stuff, and Ben writes these monologues and introduces people in a way that they're not introduced probably anywhere else.
Yeah, and that's the beauty, isn't it, of like putting on your own show like that. People don't realise when we're like as producers or performers or artists, we are doing so many roles just because the people think that you have help and production teams and people doing it for you, and you're like, no, it's just us. Yeah, we're PR, we're marketing, we're bookkeepers, we're bankers, we're venue negotiators, contract negotiators, and just all sorts of hats. So I tend to do all the front of house and admin stuff, and Ben manages the show and gets on and does that. And I think one of the things that I realised, having been in Joe's world for a couple of years beforehand, was how important dressing rooms are. Yeah, and that actually it doesn't matter how great you are out front. If you're not very nice in the dressing room, I'm not going to book you again, because it's really important that the dressing rooms are safe spaces and everybody is just really nice to each other. And I'm really grateful for the kind of Double R family that we've managed to curate, that kind of really nurture people to kind of be their authentic self while remaining loyal to the David Lynch theme, which is ridiculous when you say it out loud. Let's take a man who only made a handful of films and make that our inspiration. It's work though. And
it really has. Yeah, we've been really lucky. We won Best Ongoing Show at the London Cabaret Awards. Ben won Best Host at the London Cabaret Awards when they were running. So that it's been really nice to be recognised by our kind of community.
That's good. And I guess would that be your advice as a producer to like new performers or performers that are coming up into the industry, is to be mindful of your backstage etiquette and how important it is just to be kind and supportive and good to get on with backstage?
Yeah, I think I think putting on shows is really stressful, and if you don't add to that stress, you'll be remembered. If you do add to that stress, you'll also be remembered, but maybe for a different reason. But I think saying please and thank you to your stage managers and your tech team is really important, and really just kind of saying, just being really kind of communicative. I think that's the biggest thing I would say to new performers coming up, is just be communicative backstage, talk to people, introduce yourself to the people on the bill that you don't know, and remember that your tech team and your stage managers have your entire act in their hands. So be nice to them.
Be nice, And it's a great opportunity to make new friends, isn't it? I remember when I first got into Burlesque, I was just so excited of all these like new people and new friends I could make. And it's just, I think sometimes people get so hyper focused on the performance and having the perfect costume or the perfect choreography, and sometimes they miss the actual enjoyment of the experience of burlesque and cabarets. The sense of becoming part of a community and making friends for me was a huge part of it.
And being inspired by each other. It's really important to take inspiration from everybody that you encounter, whether that is great inspiration or lessons learned inspiration. You can learn from every performer you see, and and I've always really valued the amount of performers that do come to the Double R Club as kind of paying guests. And right from the very beginning, we've always had a kind of performer element in the audience, and that's really important to me because it shows that they value and respect what we're doing front of house, but also that they can be inspired and learn from everybody.
And how would you say your experience now? So because you still perform burlesque now, don't you? On occasion.
On occasion. I think probably once or twice a year, probably once a year, I have one girl left, and she lives at the Double R Club, and I haven't performed on anybody else's stage for probably about 8 years, but sometimes she comes to the Double R Club.
And do you still enjoy that?
I love her. She, I always talk about her in the third person, but she is my tribute to the Elephant Woman. And what I love about that act is how much she is kind of me. That kind of the moment, the reveals of being from somebody who can't walk without a stick to having to feel a little bit kind of fragile when they move, to all of a sudden being kind of like, that first reveal when it's kind of like, this is me. Brilliant. And I love her. I love her so much. And she lives in a suitcase under my bed, but she's always there. But she's me.
That's the beauty of the creative part of burlesque, isn't it? We create these characters. And I guess, so coming up with your burlesque name is part of that, creating that persona, isn't it? And how did you come up with your cabaret name?
Well, this is also a very odd story. My life is full of odd stories. When I first met Ben, which was 1992, I'm going to take some water. I had gone to see him in his parents' house where he lived at the time. And his dad, the first name he called me, his dad called me Rose. So Rose was always there. Ben's mum's middle name is Rose. And weirdly, Rose just kind of stuck.
Yeah.
And then we did a bit of digging, and this might just be historical memory, but the French word for spine is also the word for thorn. And it's kind of like, there we go, Rose Thorne. I was Miss Rose Thorne till I hit probably about 45, and it's like, I can't call myself Miss anymore. I'm getting too old for this, so I'm very much now just Rose Thorne, and that's what people call me. And I often refer to it as my day name and my night name.
Day name and night name. I love that. That's so cute, and it's good to have, like. So I say to people, like, the idea and the concept of having these cabaret personas is that empowerment and the permission that you get to, like, step into somebody that's almost a little bit more courageous or a little bit more brave, extended version of yourself.
Yeah, I think Rose Thorne gave me the kind of courage to be me. I can do public speaking now at the drop of a hat. Stand up in front of 350 people at Wilton's Music Hall and talk about the charity and not even bat an eyelid. And pre-burlesque, absolute worst nightmare public speaking, and I would do everything to avoid it. And so burlesque has kind of given me the confidence to be me, to remember that even when I'm day name me, that that kind of like Rose is always part of me, and if she can do it, then my day person can do it as well. And really, really changed me completely.
So it could, like, people in the kind of, if they had a 9 to 5, we were talking about this in the last episode actually with the madam, about how it's a great idea for people in the kind of 9 to 5 that aren't in the industry could create their own kind of like little persona that they can sort of put on when they feel that they need to be a little bit more brave and a little bit more confident, and see themselves as that character, as a way of, like, building.
Absolutely. But Rose Thorne takes over more and more of me as every year goes by, I think.
It's not necessarily a bad thing. How would you describe burlesque to somebody that doesn't know what burlesque is?
Goodness.
It's a tricky one.
It is a tricky one. I think burlesque is different to everybody. I think it's about giving yourself the space to be you. And if you don't know who you are, having the time and opportunity to explore who you are. And burlesque, whether you take your clothes off or whether you don't take your clothes off, gives you the space to connect with the real you that may have been hidden away. It's a little bit like that Pixar film, is it The Insiders? The kind of, they've all got little kind of, all your emotions live as little people in your head. And I think burlesque allows you to find a little person that perhaps you haven't recognised. I think it can be playful, it can be scary, it can be a whole vast array of emotions. But the big thing for me is that burlesque can really help find out who you are and help you live the best life you can.
And that's just such a beautiful thing, isn't it? To have that kind of freedom to go on a little adventure of discovering a little more facets of who you are as a person. And being more expressive with that.
Yeah, it's important.
When life and work feels intense, with whether it's the burlesque or charity work, what is it that you would come back to really kind of help, support and ground yourself? Because it can get a bit crazy, can't it, as well? Yeah,
it can get a little bit overwhelming. I think the thing that I kind of like an early night, a bath and a book, and my cat. I think the ability to kind of switch off from technology is really important, and I'm not very good at it. it's an odd thing. I think when somebody emails me, I need to reply straight away. Nobody's expecting me to reply straight away, but that's a kind of self-imposed pressure.
Yeah.
But I think the way for me to escape is kind of, walks along the river, books and baths, and really just escaping technology, because technology can kind of overwhelm you. We have, I think at the moment, I run 4 Instagram accounts.
Wow.
I've got, 4 different email inboxes, and all of this stuff can be really overwhelming. And turning off your phone, either to watch a movie or to have a bath or have an early night, is really, really important. And I think that disconnect from technology is something that probably we all need to get a little bit better at.
Definitely, because I feel like I'm nearly 40 this year, so I remember the world before we had all the social media apps, and it did feel a lot more quieter, and you kind of had space to have your own thoughts. And it's been a real experience, hasn't it, over the recent years, of how impactful social media is on all of us, and that you'll constantly see other people perform or other shows, and you can somehow get that fear of missing out, or that you're not doing it right. And so it's really important to take those mental health breaks.
I think so. And I think, there's real kind of, the internet will always show you somebody who you think is, thinner, better, funnier, prettier, richer, all of these things. And, they're just a kind of short clip. And, I'm 56 now, and I see a lot of adverts for, lose that menopause weight, and get these, these shots, these vitamins, these, and it's kind of, it's really overwhelming and can really kind of pull you down. So if you're having already a hard day, and then every other advert on Instagram is lose that menopause weight, it's like, I feel really rubbish about myself, and sometimes you just have to remind yourself who you are.
Yeah,
but it's really hard.
It is hard, and that's the kind of, I think, what I've enjoyed about burlesque is the way it helps you connect with your body, and the celebration of all bodies. Like, in a way that social media and mainstream advertisement is like, we should all look this way. Yeah. And what I love for audience members is when they come to a burlesque and a cabaret show, that they see so many different body types and body shapes, that it really makes people feel like more seen, and like, oh, okay, like, because you're not seeing that airbrushed perfect. You're seeing real people and real bodies. People, and you kind of click back in and you go, oh yeah, we've all got those bits. And we've all got, and that's healthy and natural and normal. But we're so conditioned to the other stuff. Yeah. But, it's lovely when people can come to shows. And I've had people come to me after a show before and gone, oh my God, I love seeing you on stage because it made me feel seen to see a body like yours. And that's what is a real joy that we can share with our audiences. Yeah,
we're not all the same, and nor should we be.
No, we should totally embrace all the different uniquenesses. So what, could you maybe take me back of when you were younger and growing up, were you very much into kind of performance or creative? What was your inspirations when you were growing up as a little girl?
I was quiet. I was really quiet. I was, my mum would always say that I would hide behind her skirt if a stranger came into the room. I was, and I've always been quite quiet. As I said, I did majorettes when I was probably kind of maybe 6 to 10, 6 to 12. I did majorettes and really enjoyed that. But again, I always had this, they're better, they're thinner, they're faster, they're, everything, real kind of comparisons with the other girls. And then I was doing some figure skating. And I think what I liked about figure skating was just kind of being on my own.
Yeah.
I do quite like being on my own. And so growing up, I wasn't kind of surrounded by lots of people, lots of noise, lots of, my mum and dad always had parties. My mum was always the belle of the ball. But I think I grew up watching movies and kind of throwing myself into movies and that kind of, solitude of kind of, listening to music, watching telly,
What were your movies that kind of really inspired you?
Doris Day, My heart belongs to Doris Day. I think the moment I realised I could do a Doris Day cabaret act, a burlesque act, and don a pink wig and wear pink, put on a blonde wig and wear pink gingham was a revelation to me and an absolute joy. But I loved Doris Day. I loved those old musicals. I love old westerns. The Carry On Screaming is a real favourite of mine. And and it was a time where there was 3 TV channels when I was growing up. And so on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon, I would sit down with my dad and my mum and we'd watch a movie. And that was a really big part of growing up.
And it's nice that you can bring those inspirations, isn't it, into your acts. And this is what we say to people, isn't it? It's like when you're creating your unique style and it's like drawing on all of those things that you experienced and you loved growing up as a child can really develop into how you want to create something on stage.
Absolutely. I had a Carry On Screaming act, and when I was kind of toning down and doing a lot less performance, I sold my entire act to a girl in Texas who the dress had been custom made for me, and it was phenomenal, but I was never going to wear it again. And so I just sold the whole thing, pasties and all, to somebody in Texas, which was great.
Is she still doing it?
I have no idea. I don't know whether she ever even did do it, but I sold the whole thing to her. My Doris Day act, I wore a blonde bob. It was to the Doris Day song "Don't Eat the Daisies." Adora Bell made me pasties where there was bees on springs, so that when I took off my bra, the bees kind of bounced about, and they were really, really joyful, and I think are all different facets of the Rose Thorne that you see before you. There's still a little bit of me in there that's thinking, could I wear pink gingham?
Where would you see yourself as Rose Thorne develop in the next 5 to 10 years as a performer or a producer?
I think for me, I'm 5 to 10 years seems like no time at all. I think what I need to be thinking about is what happens to the charity. What does the next generation of the board look like? How can we, if we can get, this is our 10th anniversary of the charity, if we can get to 500,000 this year, how do we get to 1 million? And so I think the Double R Club will keep going as long as audiences want. Ben talks often about being that kind of like, crazy old man who's still on stage at 60. And
right.
And so, I love doing the Double R. I get it brings me a great deal of joy, and so I would like to still be doing the Double R, and I would like to be thinking about really where the charity goes. Charity goes next. I doubt I'll ever create a new act. But who knows? Who knows? I might hear a tune one day and go, you know what? I think I could make this work. We stage all our David Bowie shows, but I've never done a David Bowie act because I've never felt the pull. For me. Not yet. But not yet. I never say never. I've never said I've retired. I've just said I just don't perform very often anymore. Because I think sometimes and this is no disrespect to anybody, when people do big announcements about their ongoing retirement on social media, it just kind of becomes a little bit a room full of people going, oh, please don't. And so I never ever said I was retired. I just don't do it very often anymore. So when I do it, it's properly special.
So tell everybody at home, so the charity that you run, Cabaret versus Cancer, how did this all begin?
Oh my goodness. So there used to be a kind of a website called This Is Cabaret, who did reviews, and they had seen Ben host 3 nights in a row. And on the 4th day, they put out a post going, surely it's time for the all-nude Benjamin Lush calendar. And I thought to myself, oh, maybe there is time for an all-nude calendar. And I reached out to a photographer, and I reached out to 12 performers. Of course, Ben was one of them, and said, would you pose nude for a charity calendar? It was the time where Calendar Girls, the movie, was coming out. So it was really kind of at the front of people's minds. And so we did the first charity calendar based on 12 cabaret performers naked with the photographer, who turned it into Sin Boskert, turned it into an amazing calendar. And we did a launch show for the charity. We weren't a charity at that time. I thought maybe we could raise £4,000, give half of it to Macmillan, half of it to cancer research. I'd lost both my parents to cancer. We'd lost some friends to cancer. So it was the right thing to do. And it really shook off. We had people queuing up to be in future calendars. So we did a calendar again the second year, and then on 2016 David Bowie died, and we put on a show, and we raised more money in that 1 week of a show and an online auction than we had done in all the years previous. And our accountant said, you might want to consider becoming a registered charity. And so I did that. I wrote all our constitutions, all our policies, all of the kind of legal documents that sit behind the charity, submitted it to the Charity Commission and just said, well, let's see what happens. And we got accepted in as a registered charity in June 2016. And at the time, I didn't really think we would be much. I thought, well, we could raise £4,000 with the calendar. Maybe we could get £10,000 a year, and wouldn't that be amazing? But it's just gone from strength to strength. 2026 is our 10th anniversary. So we're celebrating our birthday all year, not just saving it for June. We're celebrating our birthday all year. And we are really fortunate to have some great trustees and ambassadors. Lily Snatchdragon is one of our trustees. Molly Beth Morosa has joined our board last year. But we're also supported by young cabaret performers, Reese Connolly and Carrot, who do Gallifrey Cabaret. They raise an enormous amount of money for the charity. Ruby Wednesday, a lot of young cabaret performers who are really behind the charity, who will give their talent and time for free to help us raise money. So we are about £26,000 away from £500,000. And it's so close, I can kind of touch it. But yeah, we're ploughing up that hill, and the money we raise is awarded as a grant to other organisations and individuals who need help with cancer or life after cancer, whether that be surviving cancer or dealing with grief and loss. So we have worked really closely with hospices and bereavement charities. We've really kind of reached out to make a difference to people, and by ring fencing our grants, it can't get sucked into any other work streams or admin costs. It's specific to delivering a piece of work, and that's what's really important about our money is it goes direct to a cause. There's an organisation in Cornwall called Boost Innovation, and they make breast forms for women after a mastectomy, and they are now we've been supporting them since about 2019, but they are now recognised by the NHS. And so you can get a Boost breast form on the NHS. So what we've done this year with them is we've given them money to create a memory garden, a remembrance garden, and obviously planted a rose bush. But it's really nice to kind of go on journeys with people. And that's what we've been able to do because it's been 10 years. So we can see where the money has been kind of tangibly making a difference.
It's incredible, isn't it? Something that started from a calendar has gone on to change and help some people's lives, and supported by the community of cabaret people.
Yeah, and I think my plea to any producer out there who wants to get involved is just drop me a line. We can do a raffle. I can send you stuff. If you're in London, I can send you volunteers. But, you can raise money really easily by doing a raffle. Whether it's, £50 or £500, it will genuinely make a difference to people's lives.
And I know, I see a lot of performers online when it's people's birthdays. People always say, rather than buy me a gift, or if you want to, and we share the Cabaret versus Cancer link, and if you want to, donate money. So people listening at home, if they want to get in contact with you because they want to work with you, they want to help raise money, how would people contact you to get hold of you?
So you can reach me through the charity. We are Cabaret VS Cancer. So it's not the whole word versus, it's Cabaret VS Cancer. And that's on Instagram. That's our website address as well. So Cabaret VS Cancer is where you'll find us. We are, old enough to still be on Facebook. We are trying desperately to get our TikTok up and running, but it's a completely different language. And our Instagram is run by one of our volunteers and who does an amazing job with it. But that's the easiest way to get hold of me.
So even if people want to help support you or they need help and support from you, please reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. We can certainly help signpost people to different organisations. If people just need some help with, Diva Hollywood, who's one of our kind of, she's been around as long as I have. She was going through breast cancer treatment, and we were able to send her kind of radiotherapy kits. chemotherapy kits just to help protect her skin, to make her feel a little bit better about herself. So we can help you a little bit. We don't give financial grants to people, but we can help with, life's necessities or a nice bottle of cream that you need, because your skin can be really damaged through chemotherapy, especially with radiotherapy. So if we can send you a nice bottle of lotion, that's a nice thing to do for somebody.
Yeah.
But we can certainly signpost people who need help with cancer diagnoses in their life. And we can certainly tell you where your money goes.
Which is really good, isn't it?
Oh.
The fact that 10 years is such a legacy, and just so beautiful that you've created something like that. Do you feel really proud?
I am really proud. I get moments of going, it's not enough. And then moments of, really kind of reflecting, it's a lot of money. £460,000 is a lot of money. And Reese, who does all of our Instagram, he also does a lot of graphics for me. And he is putting together a kind of infographic for me of all of the kind of the numbers that sits behind this, the number of people who have, performed, including yourself, the number of shows we put on, the number of people who have gotten breast forms because we've helped a number of children who've been supported. And that, I think, is going to be quite a humbling moment, but it's never enough. And I will shake down anybody when I leave a venue for money. And what's nice about being a small, I think we're even a micro charity, is that we know where the money goes. So we don't have the big overheads that some of the big charities have. So the money can be really kind of like narrowly spent where we want it to be spent. Which is really nice.
Yeah. It's really personal then.
Yeah.
Connected to...
But yeah, it's the thing, my mum died in 2010 of cancer, and it's kind of like, I wish I could tell her. I wish I could tell her. And often I think, I just could tell my mum what I've done, because I know that she would be absolutely over the moon with it.
And we're all so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
It is just incredible, the work that you do and how hard you work behind the scenes. I don't think people really appreciate the time and effort that it goes into what you do, not only producing the shows, but also running the charity is essentially like a full-time job in itself. Yeah. And you still have a
full-time job. Yeah, I do a lot of admin on my commute. A lot of admin on my commute, and it is hard, and I do beat myself up a lot about it. It's not enough, I'm doing too much, and it's a real battle of wills. But I'm bloody minded and determined, and you're not on this planet for very long. And if when you're here, you can make a difference, whether that be through entertainment, whether that be making people smile when they see you perform, or whether that be raising money for a charity, I think it really counts. And you don't want to be at the end of days thinking, I wish I'd done something.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Just do anything, any form of showing up and contributing, isn't it? I think the act of being of service to others is so healing for yourself and everybody around you. Instead of, I wish more people would be less concerned about the kind of the take and the me that we've kind of got into with modern society, and have a little bit more of a step back and kind of go, what do I give?
Yeah,
how do I show up for others? And it doesn't have to be something huge, but every micro moment where you can just offer that bit of kindness, or make a donation, or show up in some way, you make the world a bit more of a brighter place.
And quite often performers who perform even at the Double R Club will say, just give my fee to the charity. And that's really lovely. One of our tech guys at the Double R Club says, I'll take my Uber fee, but the rest can go to the charity. And it's really nice to see how those two parts of my life kind of meet, because one wouldn't, the charity wouldn't exist without the Double R Club, and the Double R Club wouldn't exist without Jo King. And so there's this kind of I often, when I speak to Jo on the phone, I'll say to her, this is all you. You're responsible for everything. And if it hadn't been for going back that second week when I was very close not to, had I not bumped into Jo King, had I not bumped into Bethnal Green Working Man's Club, all of these things, we wouldn't be sitting here today.
Where do you think your life would be if you hadn't had those?
I have no idea. I think about what that sliding doors moment is. The person who was kind of 2006, she was working in a job she didn't really like. She had left behind creative industries that, had kind of come to a kind of end. And I don't know how she would have been. I don't know how she could be happy And she must have been happy because she'd been with Ben for a long time. We moved to East London before all this started. But I have no idea where she is and what she'd be doing. My mum and dad would still have died of cancer, so maybe she would have just worked out how she could make a difference that way.
It's really beautiful. I do love Jo. I regularly ring Jo for chats and advice. She is like the mama of burlesque.
She is.
Whenever you're having a little problem or a little drama, and she's got so much wealth and wisdom and like this kind of kindness and patience with it. And I think that comes from being in the industry so long and seeing so much.
Yeah. And she's the first person I went to when I came back to London after my mum died. She was running a workshop with Dirty Martini. And it's like, I'll go to that. And then afterwards, Sabrina, who was tiny at the time, she's not tiny anymore, Sabrina and Dirty and Jo and I, we went and watched fireworks because it was November. And I always remember the kind of the kindness of Jo at this kind of dark time in my life, the kindness of Jo and the kindness of Dirty, who I'd only met that day, and how kind of important having people around you who could just be kind really is. And that kind of ethos of kindness is what I mean when I talked about the dressing rooms. Just be kind to people. If somebody needs to borrow your hair lacquer, let them. Ask if somebody's okay. Tell them their performance was great. Just be kind to each other because life is hard. And I always try to do the best I can with people. You're not always perfect. You'll always make mistakes. It's part of human nature. But I always try to make sure that we are kind of kind and welcoming at the Double R Club and with the charity shows. People, we feed people. We don't pay them at the charity show, but they get pizza or they get their Uber home or they get a drinks token. But we always try and do a little bit of kindness. And people really appreciate the small things. You don't have to be big, grand gestures. Kindness can be as small as just telling somebody they look amazing. And I know that as I've gotten older, I will often stop people in the street and say, "You look amazing," and kind of like it's kind of a little bit selfish because it kind of makes you feel good as well because you've taken the time to recognise somebody else on the street. But I was going back to the house a few years ago, and I saw this older woman, much, much older, white haired, wearing red lipstick, and she looked amazing. And I said to her, I hope you don't mind me telling you, but I think you look amazing. And she was so happy that somebody had kind of stopped her to tell her that. And it's kind of like, we should do more of that. Totally. Tell people they look nice, even if they don't think it will just give them a little bit of a boost. But tell people they look nice. Tell them they were great on stage. Just be nice.
Because there's so many times that you can see people and you go, oh, they've got a great outfit. I love their makeup. And sometimes we just say it internally. And if you can get into that habit of saying it externally, like you say that person might be having a really bad day, and just by you taking the time to just pay a compliment that's genuine, that you mean, can really make the difference.
Yeah, it really can. It really can. It's a good thing to do. Be nice.
I aim to be that like glamorous and fabulous when I get, white haired, and I want to still be wearing red lipstick. And
red lipstick changes everything.
It does, doesn't it? It's like your power thing. I always feel like, I don't know if you feel the same when you're getting ready for a show. I don't quite feel I'm ready until the red lip goes on.
So the red lipstick is always the last thing to go on, and then a quick dab of Chanel No. 5, obviously, and away we go. But Chanel No. 5, I know you will wear Chanel No. 5 because of your Marilyn act. But when my mum died, we found 10 bottles of Chanel No. 5 and body lotion and soap. And every year, when my dad would say, "What do you want for your birthday or Christmas?" she'd say a bottle of Chanel No. 5. But when she died, it was all there. and it's like, I'm going to wear this. So it's, and the other night there, I said to Ben, I said, what smells do you kind of associate with me? It's something I'd seen on the internet. And he said, vanilla and Chanel No. 5, and it's kind of like that. It's there, and it's like there's no point in keeping it for good. Wear it, just wear it. And so I wear it every day, and I'm on my last bottle of Chanel No. 5 from my mum's stash. But she kept it in cupboards her whole life, and she should just have worn it. Yeah, because life's too short, isn't it? And I always say we always have these clothes that we save for best, or get your best perfume, and it's trying to find the micro moments to celebrate life every day. It's like, get dressed up for life, enjoy it, you know, wear the outrageous things, wear the things that make you happy and make you feel good, because it's just going to put on the red lipstick and the Chanel No. 5, you'll be fine.
If you take on the world with a bit of red
absolutely.
lipstick.
I have day red lipstick and nighttime red lipstick. So I have as you said, I've got a day job and I have red lipstick that's not quite stage red, but still very much can help lift my spirits when I look in a mirror or see myself on a Zoom call. Can kind of lift my spirits, and I've started working with a group of women who are not entertainers but who are kind of like a marketing group, and they it's called Goddess Marketing, and it's all women, and I've been with them now since the start of the year, and the joy they have for each other is really nice. And in a world where, we try really hard in our world to make it kind and nice, and it's nice to be part of another group of women who are all doing the same thing, kind of cheering each other on, applauding each other, saying well done, and quite often they will all put on their red lipstick before they get on, and it kind of always makes me smile.
And it's important to encourage people, isn't it? Like if you're, I guess, somebody stuck at home that hasn't quite feel like you've not quite found your tribe or your space of people, to know that there are these communities and spaces out there of women that do uplift each other. And if you put yourself out in the world and try these things, maybe go to a class or go to a show where you can become part of the community.
Yeah. Become a volunteer for Cabaret versus Cancer. We've got volunteers who have just moved to London, and they volunteer and they come along and they make friends, and then they look forward to seeing them at the next volunteering opportunity. And I was always quiet. I'm more comfortable probably in my own company than I am in a big loud room. But it's really exciting to see these kind of real communities of really strong women come together and really celebrate each other. And the Cabaret community is very diverse, and all genders are welcome and encouraged. But it's really nice to know that at the heart of it, we've all got each other's back.
Yeah, there's something really beautiful in that experience of just knowing that people are there for each other, and that, I guess, is maybe the sense of community that we need right now.
Yeah,
definitely.
And friends, I've made friends through burlesque that I would never have had any other way. People will come over and we'll have a barbecue in the summer. People will come over and we'll just watch films. And we had somebody over the other night there who I met. And it's kind of like I would never have met you, and without burlesque, and that's really important. Sean Mooney, who is kind of like the most extraordinary technical person in the world.
Right, sure.
And we all love Sean. But, Sean, I would never have met without burlesque. And he's an absolute backbone of the charity, of the Double R Club, of Cabaret in general. It's kind of like, first call. If you can't get something to work, first call, Sean. and these people are huge parts of my life and kind of have given me this kind of made family, chosen family that I would never have had without it. And again, all down to joking.
We do quite a lot of performers say that backstage of like, I guess as performers and artists in Cabaret, we maybe are sometimes the parts of community that feel a little bit different or a little bit unusual, like we don't fit the box. And then you go off into the world of Cabaret and you meet these new people that are maybe a little bit more like you. And then you can, like you say, you have your chosen family and just the friendships that you build over those years. I mean, some of the people that I've met over the years have become, invaluable friends. The same. I would never have crossed paths with them had I not got into burlesque. And they're people that have inspired me greatly. I'm so, always appreciative.
Yeah, it's really important, I think. Your chosen family is really important. And I don't think I really recognised that 20 years ago. But as I've gotten older, I really recognise the people around me and the kind of value that they bring to every part of me.
Would you say that you see the industry, how would you say you see the industry different when you first started in burlesque and cabaret to now? What does it mean to you differently?
There was a lot less of us.
Yes.
There was a lot less of us, and we were mostly always at Volupty.
Yeah.
You go to Volupty for a time for teas in the Saturday afternoon, and then you just stay and do the evening show.
Yeah.
So we spent a lot of time at Volupty, which was an incredible place. It was a lot smaller. It was probably, it certainly wasn't as diverse and as kind of... and diverse as in kind of even subject matter. There was lots of, it was burlesque and striptease with a singer, or Matt Ricardo.
Good old Matt.
And we weren't as busy. It wasn't something that I don't think probably many of us thought was a career. I'd always thought if I could get down to working 4 days a week, it would be a win. It's never happened. And so it was you would see the same faces, you would know everybody. It was a tiny little world. Certainly in London, we were a tiny little group of people. We we had we all went through Joe King, and so we had Time for Teas, and then we had the Teas Maids. We had Bestival, which was through Time for Teas. We had the Volupte shows in the evening. There was a few other little shows here and there. Bethnal Green doing shows, Whoopi doing shows, but it was quite a small community. And I mean, there probably was, but I remember there just not really being any kind of ego or kind of competition. And I think competition is there now. And I don't think competition was quite so prominent in those days. I think we had our kind of like our icons, Polly Ray was an icon, but then there was a lot of us who were doing it to be a better version of them. And yeah, it was a different world. It was much more analog, I think. I think we probably still have a box of CDs where you had to take a CD to shows.
Yeah, we used to take a CD.
Yeah, so you had to take your CDs and it was I think I would describe it more analog, but kind, really, really kind. And even though a lot of the girls I started performing with kind of 18, 19 years ago, a lot of them, probably all of them, but maybe a handful, have stopped performing. And so, but I still see them on Instagram, and I'll send them a message and, reach out to them here and there. But there are still a few kind of icons kicking around. Fancy Chance has been around for a long time, and one of the first kind of neo-burlesque performers that I saw, and she's inspiring and awesome, and, she is everything that, you would want to be as a grown-up. Her performance is incredible. And so it was much more analog. It's now much more competitive, I think.
Yeah.
And I do often think, are we just passing the same 50 quid around? But really, a life-changing kind of group of people for me.
And it's grown and evolved so much, burlesque, hasn't it? I had the honour and pleasure of being in the industry, maybe it's got to be like 14 years now. And so, I've seen lots of changes over the years, and, and not, as long as you guys, but it's grown and it's evolved and it's become more colourful. And I just hope that we never lose the community and the kindness and the fun that we all started it for. That was always for me personally, to get into it was like the fun of it,
and I love watching a good striptease artist.
Yeah.
I love watching tease, and that's the thing that I don't think 16-year-old me would ever even have thought of. Yeah. But I love watching striptease, and that moment where, whether it's a glove or a stocking or, the shoulder of a dress, that kind of tease, and Betsy Bonbon, who works with the Double R Club quite a lot, she's been around longer than me, and watching Betsy perform is a real kind of masterclass in tease, because she is hot as anything and can make taking off a pair of woolly tights at the Double R Club still something that's absolutely just joyful to watch. So I love watching tease.
I love her, is it the Great British Teapot?
Yes.
Burlesque act is great. Yeah, I love Betsy. She was on an evening of burlesque for us for many years. When I first started, she was on the show, and I remember standing in the wings and watching her and the Folly Mixtures and just being in awe of these women and just be like, oh my God.
Yeah. Incredible stuff. But Joe is at the heart of it all. Yeah. Joe is at the heart of it all.
And so many people forget that, don't they? Like, so many of us, Joe has touched it, and we feel like we're doing it kind of, Joe, we love you. We haven't said it enough, but she's touched so many people's lives in the industry.
Yeah.
I always think when people go to learn burlesque, they should learn from as many different teachers as they can, but also seek some of the people that have been in the industry a long time, because they'll have such a depth of wealth and knowledge that they can share with you. in a way that you wouldn't get if you'd learned from somebody that maybe has been doing it 5 years, and both are equal and valid.
Absolutely.
But if you want to kind of learn a lot of different variety of skills.
Yeah, it's not a competition, but it's the more kind of reference points you can have, the better.
The more you can expose yourself to, isn't it? Because I remember when I was first interested in burlesque, I used to just go to as many shows as I could. And I always say that to people, if you're inspired by the industry and you want to know more about it or be part of it, or you think you might want to be a performer, just go to as many shows as you can find and really get the feel and the essence of it.
Yeah, find your show. Because, the Double R Club will not be for everybody. It's been a while since we've had somebody faint. But maybe it hasn't. Maybe it's happened quite a lot. It's happened quite a lot. It happened a lot with, it happened a lot. People faint when they see blood, whether real or fake, on stage. But find your show. As I said, it won't always be the Double R Club because it is, it isn't like your usual kind of show. And go make friends with people, be a stage kitten, be a stage manager, help backstage, do what you can to help people, because you'll learn a lot by being a stage manager or by saying, can I help you come and, sell merch, or what can I do? Get involved, because if it will only be a community if we recognise that a community needs all different parts to work. We can't all be driver seats. You need to have everything. You need to have the people who will prop you up. You need to have the Seans who do the tech stuff. You need to have the Louise and the Karens who kind of stage manage. You need to have the dressmakers. You need to have everybody, and you need somebody to help serve the drinks and to stamp people into buildings. And it takes everybody. I think it takes a village to bring up a child. It takes a village to put on a show. And and you can help. Yeah, you can help.
Again, isn't it? Be a service.
Yeah.
Be part of it. Get involved and champion it along the way. And hopefully people will discover lots of beautiful things about themselves by opening up their curiosity.
Yeah, and you can find out, what, late nights aren't for me. Or you can say, actually, what else can I do? I want to get really involved, or, I'm often finding with young people, they're saying, I can help you with your TikTok.
Yeah.
Which is great, because I do not understand it. I just don't understand it. Okay. And so everybody has a different skill to bring to the game, and there'll be something that somebody else does that I can't do. So just offer up.
Just find your little unique skill, even if you don't know what it is yet. I guess if you had some advice, what would be, if somebody was thinking about trying a burlesque class for the first time and they were maybe a little bit nervous or a little bit unsure, what would be your advice?
Stand in the front row. Don't stand in the back row, because all you'll do is compare yourself to everybody else in the room. Stand in the front row, because then you won't compare yourself to anybody, because you can't see them. So if it's that's what I would say, because that's what I did on my second week with Joe. First week, stood at the back, compared myself to everybody. Second week, Joe said, come and stand up front. Oh, okay. And my biggest piece of advice, if you're going to your first burlesque class, stand up front.
Just give
stand
it
up front. You don't need to wear heels. You can wear flat shoes. You can wear bare feet. You can wear ballet slippers. You don't have to wear heels that you can't walk in. You be comfortable. Be hydrated. But be comfortable. Be you, and stand in the front.
Stand in the front. That's good. That is good advice. I should try and remember that. If I ever take any classes or lessons now, I'm going to be like, stand at the front.
Yeah. or if you're teaching, look for the person who's hiding up the back and check in with them, because maybe they are out of their depth. Maybe they're scared. Maybe they don't feel good about themselves, and just encourage them. So I think there's lessons for both teachers and students.
Yeah. We had, the madam was on the last episode of Behind Burlesque, and they said something that really resonated with me, and I thought it was such a great quote. And they said, don't paddle in your fear, swim in it.
Oh, that's nice.
And it's literally sat with me for weeks now. And I'm like, where am I paddling in my fear, or I need to swim in it? And I think that's a really kind of great way of conceptualizing it. Where, don't just dip a toe.
Yeah. Just, nobody's going to die from doing a burlesque performance. It's unlikely you're going to die doing a burlesque performance. But, just try. Just try. But really, I would say to students, stand in the front row, and to teachers, look out for that person who's at the back, because maybe they're just scared, unhappy, out of their depths, maybe don't like themselves, and you've got a responsibility to encourage the best of them.
I also say to people as well, like, to, even if you're nervous on the first class, go back for the second one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I went back.
Yeah, because it's different, isn't it? I think the first time you ever try and learn something new, it can be so overwhelming, can't it? And then you go the second time and you're kind of like, oh, okay. Yeah. And by the third time, you're like, oh, not as scary as I thought.
Yeah.
You kind of have to say to people, like, pushing past your fears, isn't it? And keep showing up.
Keep showing up. And, I'm not a dancer. I'm not, elegant and graceful on, but I do me.
Yeah.
And I think the worst thing you can do, and I often have to tell myself this, is compare yourself to other people. It's hard because we do it all the time. But as I said, I nearly didn't go back. But I did go back and changed my life.
Yes. And you've created such a legacy in the industry and the community. And we're very grateful. And I'm so grateful that you came and spent some time with me today.
I'm really glad to.
Thank you
really
so
glad
much.
to. It's always nice to get dressed up in the middle of the day.
It's lovely, isn't it? It's extra glam. And I love your hair.
Oh, thank you.
It was gorgeous. Did you make that yourself?
No, I bought this from an artist called Pearls and Swine.
Lovely.
And yeah, it's very much a kind of signature thing, is wearing a rose crown. And balances everything out nicely.
It's gorgeous.
Thank you.
It suits you very much. Well, today's episode was sponsored by Crystal Parade, who are a fabulous sparkly go-to.
Oh.
So, because we were discussing earlier as well about, before we came on air, of how early on in Burlesque, we didn't have crystals.
It was all sequins. Yeah, all sequins. My first costume, all sequins.
And it's changed so much now, because now we rhinestone the hell out of everything and anything that sits still.
Yeah, my first pasties were sequins. Probably my second pasties were sequins. Adora Bell then started kind of making my pasties, and hers were all crystalled. And it's kind of like, these are incredible. Yeah. But it was sequins. I think sequins is at the heart of probably many a suitcase in our flat. Probably still has bits of sequins in it rather than rogue gems.
Gonna haunt you for life.
Yeah.
But Crystal Parade are a fantastic go-to company if you want to sparkle something. So they've let me sparkle you a wonderful gift. So here it is. I forgot where I put it then. So here we are.
Oh my goodness, that's beautiful. What an amazing colour.
So for everybody listening that's not watching on YouTube, it's a
teal, would you call it teal? Yeah, that's beautiful.
Clutch bag that's been sparkled with, I think they were Aqua SS10 crystals from Crystal Parade.
Yeah, that big crystal in the middle, that's quite fancy. It's beautiful. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. But thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure, Isabella.
Sharing your story, and I've been really inspired, and I hope everybody at home has. And just remind everybody where they can find you and the charity.
Yep. So the Double R Club is on Instagram, which is the RR Club. You'll find that there, where we have shows every month in Walthamstow. And Cabaret versus Cancer is Cabaret vs Cancer on Instagram and our website. But if you search for Cabaret versus Cancer on Google, you should find us. I am Miss Rose Thorne on Instagram, but it's mostly just pictures of my cat. Mostly pictures of the cat. But yeah, if you reach out to us at the Double R Club on Instagram or Cabaret versus Cancer, the message will always get to me.
Perfect. Well, thank you. It's been an honour to sit and chat with you. And let's hope that we can get Cabaret versus Cancer to the target of 500,000.
Yeah, we will get there. But if anybody's listening who happens to have a big barrel of money under the sofa, just give me a call. Just give me a call.
Well, it's been a pleasure, and I wish you all the luck and success going forward. And I look forward to seeing you again at some shows.
Absolutely.
And,
great. Thank you very much.
Most welcome. Thank you for watching and listening to Behind Burlesque. I've been speaking to the wonderful Rose Thorne today from Cabaret versus Cancer. If you've enjoyed the episode, make sure you give us a like, share it with your friends, leave us a comment, tell us what you loved about the show. Today's show has been sponsored by Crystal Parade, but I'd also really love you to go and check out Cabaret versus Cancer and the amazing work that they do. And I look forward to seeing you all next time.